I think we're live.
We're on.
I think we are, yeah. Well, good morning. It's a beautiful sunny day in the UK. I hope the same is true in Spain.
It's looking like you got yourself nicely set up there with your camper van there, Jochem. It's a nice
it's quite good here in front of my little camper van now.
This is the earliest podcast we've ever done. So it's currently 8:35 in UK time, and I feel like we're going to find out whether this is wise or not.
Yeah, we've been going since 8, haven't we? So and actually up before then. So not unusual for those that own animals, cats and dogs, and we're all owners of those. So we are awake. So that's good news. We've got lots to talk about today. We're going to, as we've mentioned before, we're going to try and do these talks on a regular basis, and they're for our benefit as much as yours, actually. And we hope that you find what we're talking about interesting. And if you want us to talk about anything in particular, then please let us know. Drop some comments below, and talk to us on Telegram or via Twitter, and we can always add your ideas into our agenda today. So what we're going to talk about is a little bit about market sentiment. We're going to talk a little bit about the latest Cyber Republic Council meeting that was run yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about what Orchard and Cordial are up to. So why don't we start then with just a quick review of where we are in the market at the moment. And the reason that we brought this up as a topic is because I had a friend of mine text me this morning and and all it said was, "Do you still believe in Bitcoin?"
That's hilarious, isn't it?
She is a late adopter, I have to say. I mean, relative to us and the others who are probably listening into this. So she's only bought recently or in the last year, and I think she's still in profit. But one of the things that Willy Woo was talking about recently is that a lot of those who sold over the last few months are those who bought over the last couple of months. So, the weak hands are being washed out, but they're the new entrants, actually. And what seems to be happening is a lot of those coins are moving to the stronger, older hands who understand more about it and are less concerned. And I have to say, for me, I'm not bothered at all about this current price and kind of sideways movement. The fact that it didn't drop really below 30,000 on the weekend and yesterday, I think, is important, because the 13th was a big day, because that's when the Grayscale, I can't remember what their particular product was called, but it allowed the selling of a large amount of Bitcoin, some futures market or something. I don't truly understand, but it was meant to be quite an interesting moment to challenge Bitcoin in the price. And it dropped a little bit and then it bounced straight back up. And I think we're on about $32,000 at the moment as we speak, something like that.
Chris, I think that the big question is, are we already in that bear market? I don't think so. People are claiming it. But you don't really see
that I read and listen to, Willy Woo, Preston Pish, Tour de Menster, I don't know, even Chico Crypto and others, none of them think that this is the bear market. And in fact, Plan B I was listening to Plan B the other day, the guy who created the stock to flow ratio, and he's like, no, this is not the bear market. This is just a moment. And in fact, in 2013, we had a similar fall by a similar percentage. At around a similar time, actually. If you look at the averages, we're slowing down. The acceleration is slowing. And so there is this idea that it's just going to take longer to reach all-time highs, and the reward ratio will decrease. So there'll be less of an impetus, less of an increase. But of course, if you're increasing from 100,000 and doubling to 200,000, then that's still an awful lot, as opposed to going from $10 to $100.
So at what price levels can we finally safely say that we're in a bear market? Would that be around the 20K Bitcoin price or lower, or yeah? I'm looking forward to that moment, actually, because I'm totally fine right now. I mean, as you know, I don't hold much crypto anymore, but I enjoy the process. But for me, I don't see this as a bear market. Also because you don't see the socials, you don't see people crying, complaining. Literally the blood in the streets, it's not there yet. And I think that we need to go a lot deeper for the bear market to happen.
Well, I think as well, we need to look at the external factors. Naturally, consumer price of goods. A report came out recently, and it's up 4.5% in the last 12 months. Now, that is the highest since 1991. So, in 30 years, we've seen the highest rate of inflation, basically. And I think we need to remember that what's going on outside of crypto is a lot of money debasement, money's being printed, debt's being issued, and you're going to start to see assets start to really rise again. And I personally, I think that what we just saw in the last couple of months was a complete washout, but what we're going to see over the next year is a huge run up again and beyond, because what's happening on the money side is it's just being exponentially devalued. The statistics say a lot, actually, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin starts to reverse soon and starts moving up.
I think those external factors, Sash, you're absolutely right. You look, but if you also look at how Bitcoin and the crypto market's engaging with some of those external factors, the fact that El Salvador has now agreed that Bitcoin will be one of its legal tenders, so they'll have the dollar and Bitcoin. The fact that a lot of I don't know, JP Morgan have increased the number of people that are working on their crypto desk, by, I can't remember, by 70 people or 70%. I don't know. I was just flicking through something the other day. But there's, the institutional interest. It is going to take a little bit of time. Michael Saylor's big conference that he ran for other institutions was only about 3 or 4 months ago, I think. And he said that it took his organization about 2 years to get into a position where everything was set up and aligned for them to buy. Wow. So, it's not something that an organization can just decide to do on Monday and then do on Tuesday if they're a big organization. So it will take a little while to run through, but there's so much legislation happening. There's so much going on in Lightning as well. And with all the different layers of the Bitcoin ecosystem or the crypto ecosystem, that this is an unstoppable phenomenon now. This is just the start. And so if it goes down a bit over the next couple of months, then so be it. And for many people, that's an amazing opportunity to accumulate. And it will fluctuate, but over time, the volatility will decrease. I'm sure of it. But when I'm talking over time, I'm talking over the next decade, perhaps. But but I think as Plan B said, we're in the middle of something as opposed to the end or the beginning of it. So I think it might be an extended cycle. It might go into 2022. So I don't think there might be a rush up before Christmas, because that's what everyone's expecting and kind of plays into the narrative. But I also think that it will continue into the spring of next year as well. But that's just my view. Who am I?
That would be great. I mean, it could be wishful thinking, but I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, and who knows what the figures will be? But it's a scarce asset, and and there'll be a lot of shifting in money and where people put their assets. And in fact, there was another article yesterday about how the UK certainly is going to go into a property bull market. So we've had a bit of stagnation. There was a big run up throughout COVID, and because of some of the taxation issues that the UK government allowed, or freeing up of some of the taxation around buying and selling property. But their time frame is over the next 4 years. We'll see a huge increase in property prices. Now, that will be partly driven by some of the inflation that Sash is talking about, and partly a driver of the inflation. So, what that means for the true value of your house is different from the price of your house, of course. But actually, if we think about that same acceleration of value in property going over the next 4 years, I think it does seem to chime with another 4-year cycle starting, with Bitcoin. So 2026, 2027, or 2025, 6, I think would be a really interesting time for another peak. And so we'll see. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I personally think we're going to start to see a recovery take place. Whether we see lengthening cycles or whether we see just runaway inflation as a whole, the way that I've always looked at inflation is it's like a ketchup bottle, in that you hit it and then suddenly it all comes out. And that's kind of what's happened. You saw it happen, a splurge happen with the start of this year, and just how we saw Bitcoin run, and it completely, you know, bearing in mind Bitcoin's up, I believe, around 300% over the last year, and over 300,000% over the last 10 years, 12 years. So it's crazy, really, the big picture, and you can see how the effect is moving up in the long term. But yeah, we saw a massive catch-up splurge at the start of this year. It's now cooled off, and we're probably going to see the next one come soon, just based on all the money that's being printed. And then that gets trickled into the economy, and then the effects are felt. And I do believe we're going to start to see it take place again.
Yeah, I used a similar argument in a discussion with someone who hates crypto. And I said, so 10 years ago, what could you buy for, how much coffee could you buy for, you know, $5? And how much coffee could you buy for 5 Bitcoin? So, and how many coffees can you buy now for $5? Well, it might be 2 max. And how many coffees can you buy now for 5 Bitcoin? I would choose Bitcoin over fiat anytime.
Yeah,
buys me a lot more coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you like coffee, then so there we are. That's the conclusion. So if you like coffee, buy Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin. Okay, well, let's go on to our second topic then. Now, I missed yesterday's CR Council meeting, but fortunately, there are 3 people on our team. So Jochem and Sasha were both present, representing Orchard. I was actually digging into the management of Orchard Creative Limited as a company. So looking at share allocations and directorships and all that sort of stuff. I got trapped in a rabbit hole with Companies House. And so actually what I'd like to do now is ask you guys some questions about what went on in that CR Council meeting. And I guess what do you think is, what's the main, what was the key topic of conversation? What do you think the real purpose of this year's council is, and did you deal with it yesterday?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and Sash actually already tweeted about it. But I think that the real big topic of this year would be how to install the Cyber Republic as a legal entity, and where. It sounds easy, right? Just hire a bunch of lawyers and get it over with. But it's not that easy to actually register your DAO and do the KYC properly. Then also do the KYC properly of every project that you fund. So there's a lot of management involved in this whole process, which is something that we need to go through, because obviously community is and has been screaming for exchanges, for example, but we can't get listed on any Western exchanges without having a legal entity. This is just a really
important point that you mentioned there, Jochem, about the fact that you need to have, because of the current setup, you need to have some sort of legal entity in order to sign with these exchanges.
Yeah. So it's hugely complicated, but I also feel that we've got also members on the council that can pull it off with us. So I'm quite positive that this year we can do this. But at the same time, we need time to actually do it properly, and eventually we're all half volunteers, pretty much.
So what do you think the most complicated question that you have discovered or was asked yesterday was around creating this DAO?
Well, Sash, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that eventually there needs to be an owner of the company or of the DAO. So it's not like you can just register a DAO and that's it. There still needs to be an owner, which I reckon could be a business or a person. But the big question is, who wants to be that person, or which team wants to be that team that's eventually the owner of the DAO? And what are the legal implications? We just don't know that yet. Who's legally liable? Is it the DAO, or is that the owning company? And what happens?
It's very strange, doesn't it, that you need to have permission to have a DAO?
Yeah.
From whom are you seeking this permission, and why does a DAO need to have an owner?
That is very strange. Yeah, that's very complicated. So do you have anything to add there? Because I see that you want to jump in.
Is Wyoming keen to try and help out on this?
Well, as far as I mean, we've got our first proper call. Orchard and Elation together are taking a call with the top law firm in Wyoming on Friday, so tomorrow, which I think will be really interesting, and we'll probably learn a lot. From what we understand, is they are the top firm when it comes to dealing with DAOs, and this is a very new law, and it's actually really innovative on Wyoming's part for them to open up such a kind of process to recognize DAOs. But I think it will have profound impacts for the state and for global DAOs in the bigger picture. But yeah, so I think we'll learn a lot. But yeah, no, Jochem, I'm not sure actually. It's going to be interesting. I was a bit confused on that myself, but really, I mean, ideally, there's, you know, a DAO is decentralized and you don't have this one person who's liable, one entity. But obviously, we have to compromise and also adopt things. So in becoming a legal entity, for instance, we will be able to legally sign documents and, you know, go for exchanges and be decentralized. But on the flip side, we're going to have to do strict KYC and ensure that we're not funding terrorism or anything that could be bad. So there's a compromise, and unlike today where we kind of can freely just fund things, we now, if we're a legal entity, we'll need to really think about that. So I'm sure as we go through this process, we're going to learn a lot, and we'll try to keep everyone updated.
But also, I guess it's, you know, what you're talking about there is bridging between the Web 2 or the current world and Web 3 and the future world. You know, we want to move and build in this new future world, but actually you can't do it completely in isolation. You've got to bridge it to where we currently are. But I guess, you know, we're talking about you need to be an identity, have a corporate identity, whether that is an individual or a company, to join into an exchange, a Western exchange, which fall under current Western regulation and legislation. But if you have a decentralized exchange that isn't owned by anyone either, then presumably your DAO can become part of a decentralized exchange without having a single entity sign for anything.
I think we're going to learn as we go. We just don't know the answer.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I think what it probably will come down to is that every year the new council members will need to be registered officially. Or maybe we can have one fixed entity who's always registered. And also who does the signing of the official documents.
Well, this is one of the reasons I put forward the proposal about creating the charity, actually, not only to assume some of the BTC that was there for activities that are not currently sanctioned by the foundation, but also to act as a legal entity for that and to be held accountable. But as a charitable sort of non-for-profit organization, I think it would be a safer way of doing it than a formal limited company, personally. I
think so. I absolutely agree with that. And maybe we should reignite that conversation, but then from this angle, it could be interesting.
Yeah. But the CRC as a whole is, I mean, the bi-weekly meetings we've been having are fantastic and been super informative. Everyone's discussing kind of their thoughts on different aspects. And I kind of seconding what Jochem said in that this is probably one of the best things we can be looking and trying to tackle this year, and it is the DAO. And we're already making great progress. So really, really positive. I think it's just perfect. Yeah. It's perfect for what we're setting out to achieve. And the fact that there's been some calls with lawyers, but we're getting a real introduction on Friday to the top lawyers in Wyoming to deal with this is a great step forward.
Oh, that's brilliant. And so there are, I know that the council has not only got the council meeting itself, but we've got a number of working groups that we've set up. Sash, you're running one of those at the moment. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that's about and, you know, what we're trying to achieve by doing that?
Sure. So we've got a Web3 conference working group, and then we've got a CR funding working group. So, I mean, doing the latter quickly, the biggest issue we still have, and it's the elephant in the room, is the price. And we can't just be, you know, okay, so we've got a Web3 conference. We want to go for platinum. It's $50,000 to fund, for instance, but we can't just drop 50,000 on the market right now. And the pullback we've already had has been enough. And to then just suppress price even more, I mean, it's not great. It could absorb it over a period of time, but I think we can be tactical about how we do this, and using DeFi tools such as Fielder is one option. And we're in a DeFi working group. I actually wasn't on the call, so you might have more to say on that, Chris, but the recent call on the weekend. But actually it's about just leveraging our tools and trying to get money, collateralizing ELA, taking out loans, understanding the liquidation rate, which actually on that topic, I know we spoke last week about how the person who shorted ELA got liquidated. I don't believe their whole collateral was in fact taken. What happens, it seems, when you go into liquidation is your assets become for sale at, I believe, a 10% discount. So you basically give others the opportunity to buy your ELA or to buy your collateral, opposed to just it all disappearing. So I think that's been a learning curve, in that the collateralization and of Fielder shouldn't be seen as scary as everyone thinks, where when it hits 100%, you've lost all your money. It's actually not, that's not the case. So for the Cyber Republic Council, we are discussing whether, take collateralizing a bunch of ELA and then taking a loan out against it whilst the price is so low, so we won't get as much of money to use, but we can get some fiat. Hopefully the price will start to rise over the coming months, and then the collateralization concern will drop as it rises. But if it was to just hit, completely plummet and then go into collateralization, we won't just lose all that ELA, and actually we'll have a case of it being on sale for anyone who wants to buy it. And then for the Cyber Republic as well, we need to think about, well, actually, can we bring in some form of revenue to cover these the interest of the loans that we take out, and what can we do there? But it's interesting. Lots of topics.
How do you feel about that last topic, Sash? Because one of the things that I don't agree with is that you use ELA to get a loan, because we don't have a business model as a Cyber Republic, so we're not getting money in to pay the interest. But then I would much rather have a compound kind of system where you use the ELA as collateral, so you can't touch it anymore, but you use it as collateral for a small amount of USDT stablecoins.
So my biggest concern personally is that we take on debt, which is what we're doing. We're collateralizing and taking on debt. And then we build up debt, and we set a standard where, the next Cyber Republic Council adopts our previous council's debt, and then they grow their debt, and it just gets bigger. And then some point you just have a massive bear market, and you have huge liquidations, which whilst, it doesn't all get dumped on the market at once, it's still, that's a hell of a lot of ELA that could build up and just be, put out there for sale and be on offer. And that to me concerns me. I always think, we have to set a precedent for future councils, and we need to be very careful in what we do, because a small seed can grow into a big tree. And actually that's something to be careful of. I favor over everything OTC, so doing over-the-counter trades and finding people who are in the community that we know and trust, who are willing to buy, mounts off us. And then second, kind of using DeFi personally.
So it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, if we create some sort of marketplace, or just somewhere where you could go, like an OTC desk. I mean, if I wanted, let's say I wanted to buy 1 Bitcoin's worth of ELA today, which actually I think probably be quite a good idea. Where would I go to make that offer, or to, how would I find anyone?
Cyber Republic. I think that's probably the best shout, because I mean, you're right, there's no platform.
But, that's what I'm saying. Would there be, if we said, let's say, for example, you could buy, I don't know, we had a page on a website, on the Cyber Republic website somewhere, that said you could buy, 50,000 ELA for this amount, or 1 million ELA for this amount, or whatever it is. At least there'd be somewhere for people to go and see what they could be buying, and what the conditions of that were, how long they had to keep it, whether it was locked or something, I don't know. But
no, I think you're right. I don't know where that stands with as far as being a legal entity there and doing such trades, but it's certainly, you're right, there should be something.
Even if you didn't do the trade itself, but you could just be the marketplace where you could see, if you wanted to buy 1 Bitcoin today, OTC would buy you X amount of ELA.
Yeah, more than anything, we should really have a smart contract as well, where it's just, an escrow smart contract, deposit your Bitcoin and deposit your ELA, and once they're both in the account, then it releases to either side. That means we could have actually more permissionless trades as far as people we don't know as much who are interested. But so currently with the Web3 conference, sorry, going back to that, Chris, there's the working group for the DeFi, which is going well, and then there's the Web3 conference, and we're looking to set up a call with Tech Circus for them to run through that they want. Need to put the proposal through soon, so community as well, be very vocal on what you'd like to see. The big, I mean, whatever we go through, whether it's nothing or we go for the highest kind of option, we can pay the second half after the event. So that's really good for price. And then the first half, we're looking for OTC buyers. So if you're interested in buying ELA from the Cyber Republic and not having to worry about, the slow trickle effect through exchanges and low volume, just reach out. We've had some members already who are interested, and we're going to try, given that, if we want to try and go for something big with the conference, I think personally I'd like to see that, but also try and sell the ELA in a way that's not going to be
maybe quickly, could you explain the benefits of going platinum versus gold, and what are the actual goals for us? Because it will surely not lead to any short-term price movements. That never happens with conferences. Unless they're big hackathons that sometimes organized by Consensus, for example. But so it's a one-day event, or it's a week event, and what are the big goals? Why would we invest so much money in a one-off event?
So first of all, there's not really any Web3 conferences. There's blockchain conferences, but actually Web3 as a topic hasn't really been covered. So the motivation for doing that is to try and have a bit of a first mover on that area. And then the reason for bringing in Elastos is to try and brand. And I mean, marketing, really, we don't have any marketing. Well, we don't, it's just community outreach. But actually, there's no brand awareness of what we're doing. And we have incredible tech. We have all the features there we should be teaching about, and people should be aware of, but they're just not. So the conference, first and foremost, is the opportunity to tie ourselves to something Web3 and then draw in as much of a crowd by inviting other guest speakers from different communities to come be a part of this conference. So it's a two-track event, which we're looking at. It'd either be in one day or a 2-day event, 1 track per day, or a longer day with 2 tracks. The first track is more generic in what is Web3, and then we'll have all these guest speakers come from everywhere. We'll aim for Cardano to obviously Elastos to Ethereum, Filecoin. We want to cover all the different topics, like what's the decentralized file storage, what's digital identities, what's smart contracts, what's AI, and give a broad outreach on track 1, which is free for anyone to kind of join. And then doing that, you bring in communities from different projects. And then track 2 is more the business aspect of what can you do today and how can you as a business get involved. So Tech Circus, because they've been doing events for some time, they have a whole roster of people that they know as far as big institutions and corporations who they would invite to come and talk about how they're incorporating blockchain, what they're using, and then basically teach others on what could be done. So they would bring in more of a business community. Now, if that's the case, there's the opportunity for Elastos and in the higher tiers to open and close the event, talk about what Web3 is, to really position ourselves into all the conversation about what tools we have and how you can utilize our utility, and then basically just make Elastos kind of a massive feature. So people go away and when they think Web3, they'll think, yeah, Elastos, that seems really interesting. It does raise the question that we need to have everything in place. So you don't want people going away to build an Elastos and finding that the tech that's been promised to them suddenly doesn't work, and then they think, well, that was a waste. So that's really important. But yeah, the biggest opportunity is just to do some form of marketing, get our name out there, and if it's successful, we can continue to do more, and we can capitalize on the Web3 conference.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, I think it's, as you say, there are loads of blockchain and DeFi and even NFT conferences now, but there isn't very much about the Web3 space. And if Elastos can be synonymous with Web3, then that would be great. And I think we should definitely try and brand the event as an Elastos event. And it's something actually that I wouldn't mind seeing Cordial or you know, the foundation, our foundation, or Orchard running in the future.
Yeah.
Trying to absolutely link those academics with real practitioners together and the developers. I think on your point about, you know, making sure all the tech is ready, I think that is true to an extent, but whether it is ever going to be ever ready, you know, fully ready, because this stuff develops all the time, is another question. I think we just have to be really honest with people and not promise that it's ready if it isn't.
Sure.
But just say, you know, this particular thing is still being built, and that's, you know, that's fine, because, you know, that's the bleeding edge of innovation that we're on.
No, you're right. Perhaps more than anything, it's documentation. So
yeah, I would agree, definitely.
Developer SDKs, the pages in which you visit. I don't, you know, when I go on to Academy or go on to Elastos.org, I still don't think it's finished. The images and things, it just needs to look really professional. Yeah. If we're going to host
the money that is being applied for the Web3 conference dedicated to fixing those sort of things, or would that have to be a separate proposal? Can we not wrap it all up into the same thing? So if we do it, we're going to allocate X amount to, I don't know, Tomb to finish the Academy page, and X amount to...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who. I'm guessing the foundation were helping cover that, and it's .org. So I don't know. But yeah, it could be included. My concern is that it's that kind of stuff's not being finished, and it's you know, it's showing promise in that it's moving in the right direction, but there still seems to be quite a bit that needs to be done. And actually, if I was visiting Elastos.org after going to the conference, does it wow me? I wouldn't say it does right now. And actually, there's images missing and things that aren't quite finished. So stuff like that, I think, just all needs to be here are the links, go to these places, and it looks like fantastic.
Well, if we haven't got one, maybe we need to have another council working group on comms or on marketing, you know, something that can take responsibility for trying to get that done, and actually putting a proposal forward to make sure that it is aligned.
Yeah, I think that the technical documentation is probably the most important. I mean, for us, not our area of expertise, but the most important thing to have in place, because you can't promote something that where the technical documentation is just not good and just not well structured, just not good. And I think that there's a little bit of work to be done there, and that also means a lot of pressure on the shoulders of the Tomb team, for example.
Yeah.
Which it's something that needs to happen anyway. And the other question that I had to you, Sash, it's going to be fully online, right? So it's a fully online.
Yeah. So
again,
the reason for going, and there's the risk of going for the highest tier is that it's the first real Web3 conference, and that, you know, we're taking a leap of faith and it might not give us the results we want. The benefits of going for it is that we attach ourselves, and if very successful, we are at the forefront. And not only that, but we get to open and close. We get a whole list of things that we can get as benefits, but Tech Circus will cater to us. So the reason for this working group is to talk about, okay, guys, what would we like from the event? What will happen shortly is I'll put a proposal forward, and then we'll vote on it to let Tech Circus know whether we're interested. But then given that we are and we go yes, then it's a case of moving forward with Tech Circus, and they will really cater to what we're after.
Well, I think that there's a second layer to this, because right now we're thinking of this as a one-off event to build brand awareness, but you don't build brand awareness in a one-off event. Building brand awareness means building continuously.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there are a lot of potential opportunities to use this moment to network, to connect with the right businesses, to connect with their network, which also means that we need to have the Tomb team, maybe Elastos Studios, a Cordial team to be there and to represent Elastos, but also to represent maybe even their own their own business, their own team. Just to be able to follow up on things. So for Cordial, the data trust will be really interesting, and there will be businesses there that could be quite interesting to engage with us about the topic. Same for Tomb about the broader Web3. So if we don't have that system in place, then we can't use it as a brand building tool. That is just a one-off moment.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it can't be thought of as a one-off. It needs to be thought of as the beginning of a longer program of events. I think that actually you can build this out. If you look at the Web Summit, it's a classic. Which is different from what we're talking about. But the Web Summit that Orchard and Cordial, Orchard went to last year, Cordial going to this year, has a space for startups that want to build on the web. It has VCs who are all paying for the privilege of going and meeting some of those startups. It has great speakers from around the world. But the Elastos conference, or Elastos / Tech Circus, or whomever the facilitator might be, could be an equivalent of that. So you invite startups that want to build on Elastos to it. You have a whole ecosystem that demonstrates what's going on over the course of a day, and in fact, it could end up making money for the some form of foundation or Elastos charity that could then go back into supporting. It could be self-reinforcing. It's a great business model in its own right, actually, as well as a marketing tool.
Yeah, I tend to think the smart contract space at the moment is very crowded. So it's hard to compete in that area because there's so much volume. But with making strides, and the DeFi area is a really important aspect we need to build out. But actually the DID, Carrier and Hive, that is so novel. And having those three technologies work together as well, and having smart contracts as a part of that on top, that's a toxic combination in a really positive way. So to talk about how businesses can use that and educate in ways in which it can benefit them, and they can create automation in their systems to bring down costs, and who they need to talk with and what they need to do, that's really powerful and a great step in the right direction. So again, we've got a whole suite of technologies under Elastos, and we can pick and choose which one is most relevant for this conference and how we want to engage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've probably dealt with that, and it's 9:10 now. So we've been going. If we run this for an hour, we've got 20 minutes left. So let me just ask you about something that I've been interested in, which is the Travala or Travala proposal. So we know that it didn't go well. Clarence put a proposal up that we would pay, I don't even remember how much it was, 50,000 ELA or $50,000. I can't remember, something. And then we would be listed as a currency, or ELA would be listed as a currency that you could use with Travala. But that hasn't gone through. So was there anything discussed about that at the meeting?
Yeah, a couple of interesting things. So Clarence, it's not quite sure how it's possible that he didn't receive that money in time, or didn't convert it in time. So we do want to follow up on that, just to clarify what happened exactly. And I think that's also our duty as council members.
So just for those who don't understand, the claim is that it didn't go through because the price of ELA dropped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also more so that the payment of ELA was made past the dropping point, to which has been kind of refuted. So that's, I think, what we need clarity on, clarity. But yeah, again, I think that's for the sake of being more efficient as a council. We need to make sure that the friction points are removed, and that the payment is swift, and that, especially with price and being so volatile, that it can be made immediately. Sorry, Jochem, carry on.
So maybe we can just jump straight into the conclusion, because we discussed all the different options, sending the 5K to Toom, all the different options that we might have. The result is that we believe, or most of the council members believe, that it's the most clean and most transparent as well, just to refund to the Cyber Republic. Because if we now make a decision on, let's send it to Toom, and that's a centralized decision that hasn't been voted for, but the community hasn't really had a chance to feedback on that. So I think it's also a normal procedure. The project unfortunately failed. Well, okay, that's what it is. It's a pity, because I kind of like Travala. Send back that ELA so that we can spend it on other things, because that's the most transparent and the most clean way to deal with it. And that was the conclusion of this topic as well.
So basically, the proposal is dead. It's not going to happen at the moment. And that is because although the ELA was given to Clarence, it wasn't exchanged to fiat when ELA was at a high price. So therefore, the current price of ELA won't allow a fiat payment of the right quantity. Okay, so
what it did raise was what do you do with the funds? So we've been talking about whether we return it to the council, whether we give it to Tomb, whether we use it for the legal fees. And that's actually great because it's raised another topic in itself. And we kind of made the decision yesterday that really it should just be setting a precedent in general, and for the future, it should just be returned to the council. It's not really for us to send it to something else for something else.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly the right decision. It's just got to go back into the big pot where it came from. And if somebody else wants it, then they need to put a new proposal in and it's available for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the fact that we thought we'd spent it is irrelevant then, because actually it wasn't spent on what it was released to do, unfortunately, which is a shame. But actually, Jochem, I think you were quite prescient in thinking that might be the case even before we were accepting the proposal.
Yeah, I mean, we had a long discussion about it, and we democratically decided to vote yes. And unfortunately, it didn't go through. And I feel it's a pity because Clarence mentioned that there was an opportunity for DID integration. Well, I'm just not sure how realistic that really is. But that would have been like my big thing, right? So it's not about having ELA on Travala, that I don't really care too much about it. It's much more interesting to have our technology used in an awesome business like Travala. So who knows, in the future there might be opportunities, and if there are any Travala employees watching this, then feel free to contact Orchard, and we'll be happy to chat with you.
Yeah, I reached out to Clarence and asked him where all the or basically for the handover notes, because as he has left the project for other things, there should be a file with all of his work that he's done whilst paid for by the EF. And I'd really be interested in following up on Travala actually, and seeing what negotiations happened, who they were with, where could we get to them? Could we even get to a point where we're not paying at all, but actually they're just using our technologies, as you were rightly pointing out, for DID integration and the like. So
it's to their benefit as well. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But there must be I mean, I would presume that if you spent 2 years on business development, there'd be a big folder of information about who our contacts are. And one of the things that we've always wanted to do with Orchard is to be able to develop those routes, and I'd love to be able to take some of them forward. But anyway, we'll see. I'll speak to Donnie, because I think the CRM file went to him. So yeah. Okay. Well, should we just what do you want to say? Was there anything else at the CRC meeting that you want to talk about now? I mean, clearly lots of things were discussed, but anything else?
These are the big topics. The NFT marketplace was obviously discussed. So we spent quite a lot of time about it. The conclusion there is that the team will have another look at their proposal and rewrite at least parts of it. Because it wasn't really clear yet how value streams would go between blockchains or within Elastos. And what for us as council members is quite important is to be able to tell.
This is Peter from Hyper's proposal,
Peter,
new project, which is an NFT marketplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the things that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to tell our community we spent 46,000 ELA, which I think is a lot of money, on this, and this is what you get back for it. And that story needs to be straight. And if I can't tell that story from my end personally, if I can't tell that story to our community, then I cannot vote yes to such a big proposal.
Okay.
So they will have another look at their proposal, and it was a very pleasant call, obviously. But that's where the proposal needs to be a bit sharper.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that was really good. And otherwise, it was the secretariat role, which is a live proposal at the moment. There's 3 days left. I mean, it looks like it's gone through. There's there's 9 yeses right now. So it's looking like Cassie is going to be our secretariat, which I think is brilliant. She's
that's great. Well, we all voted yes for that. So, you know, unanimous decision from our part. And in fact, we wanted to put that proposal forward, didn't we? So, but I think, did Ryan get there first or somebody? At the end of the day. But we're fully supportive of that. And you can read our reasons why if you look, it's all on the chain.
It's brilliant. And she's, as far as Cassie's brought in some of the community members to help her with some of the tasks, be it writing documents and playing a part in this role. So it's not just her, and I think that's also really positive. And some of the members which she's got is community members we know and we like. So I think all round it's a nice community effort here, and Cassie seems like a great representative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need someone that can speak both languages. I mean, you know, that's crucial.
I always feel so sorry for Cassie when one of us goes off on a 10-minute ramble on our working group, and then suddenly realize that Cassie needs to translate and she's got her work cut out.
I think what actually we could do, I did do some work with that in one of my previous jobs about how you speak and not just the words you use, but the tone and the length of your sentences, so that a translator can then do their work appropriately, and you keep the whole conversation moving, as opposed to the 10-minute ramble and then them trying to do it for 10 minutes and everyone else switches off because they can't understand. So actually, maybe that might be worth doing for all of us, and then we'll probably get more out of the meetings as well.
No, it's good. But apart from that, I mean, that was everything Cyber Republic related. Do we want to talk a little bit about Cordial? I mean, we've got webinars which we're planning, and we're wanting to bring in some cool things there.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, one of the things that we certainly learned from Orchard, and that we'll keep doing as we're doing this, is that, you know, communication is vitally important. We need not just us sending messages out, but listening to what's going on in the community as well. And actually, we are all of the belief that we need to be open-minded, because this is such a novel area that we need to learn stuff. We need to learn new stuff every day, and it's all happening around us. So what we're going to do with Cordial is run a series of webinars, one per month, every month for the next year. We'll start off series 1, or just be 6 months worth. So we'll do 6 webinars. And what we're going to try and do, and we had a good conversation about this yesterday, is get some real experts in the room, the virtual room, and use them to grow our understanding, and also the understanding of that particular discipline, and how that affects us in Cordial, what we're trying to do, how that affects Elastos and the smart web, and how we can join the dots between some of these ideas. So we're going to be talking about digital identity, and Donnie has said that he'll be a guest on that particular show, and we'll start looking for other people. We are currently trying to work on our the first of the series, which we wanted to cover on data trusts. This is a relatively new idea, and we've found some amazing people who are working in that space, and others who are working in tangential spaces that actually connect in. So things like ethics and governance and legal attribution of data as property, things like that. But we can have these debates, and we can learn from it, and the reason is not just to be entertaining, but also so that we can, in our design, we can add in the latest information and philosophies about what these technologies should and can do. So we're going to talk about, off the top of my head, what we're going to talk about: data trusts, digital identity, AI and machine learning, what the difference is and how we would use them, ethics in that field. What else are we going to talk about? I can't remember. Can you remember?
About whether blockchain can save democracy. That was the first one, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, and citizen assembly. So you're absolutely right. That is going to be one.
Which is live, by the way, so people can watch it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, IoT and Industry 4.0, smart cities. I mean, there's a whole host, and really, there's again, what was the term we've dubbed? It was a community of intellect. So what we really want is to build a new community up of real experts in different fields and bring them all together, and do it through providing this platform where we do branded events and these webinars where we bring some in, we talk about it, and then we have that network afterwards which we can go to speak more and update on what we're doing, and hopefully collaborate in ways, because as part of Cordial's journey in building our vision and a knowledge ecosystem to share knowledge, which is to share data fairly, we really want to build up some really good connections there. So I think through an event in which we educate, like the Can Blockchain Save Democracy, we have a huge scope here to invite some really great speakers to do some really great things.
Yeah, so if you've got ideas about what you want to hear in this series or sequence of series, then drop us a line. Let us know. What's a big issue that you want us to, strategic issue for Web3 and or the smart web is really what we're trying to cover, and how Cordial World might be able to help create that and share that knowledge.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably all we've got time for, really, if we're going to stick with the hour. I think that's good. Jochem or Sash?
Maybe very short. I've got one more topic.
Sure.
Because I work for a university, and later today, I'll have the graduation ceremony, which is the biggest event for us pretty much in the year. And we will have a number of students that will graduate on Elastos. So we will.
This is amazing news. This is great. I'm so sorry that I forgot it. It was meant to be the first thing on my list.
It's not a problem. I mean, what is nice about it is that, this will be the first people ever to graduate on Elastos as a topic, on the smart web as a topic, which is, I think it's brilliant, because this is one of those things that we've been doing as Orchard. Most credits, Chris and Sash, to you, because as a lecturer, I could not be involved in it. But it's so great to see that our work is paid off. Some of these students, won't mention names, they will be involved, and they are involved in the blockchain space at the moment. But this is just very good thing to do for us.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? So we've had I think we've probably influenced I don't know the total number, but I would say 7 or 8 students who have been looking at Orchard or Cordial or Elastos or the smart web as topics, and we've been able to help them connect with some of the right people. We've been able to expose new ideas to them about what the smart web is, and try and translate some of Rong's vision for them, and give them some real help in coming up with their dissertation topics, and then actually the production of that work. So these people, I mean, it's amazing that you've got university students now who can study Elastos. I mean, that's just awesome. And the fact that they're leaving and graduating today with dissertations that talk about the smart web and the Elastos vision and all of the elements of it is pretty amazing. So I think what we could try and do is, now that they've graduated and they've effectively finished, we could see if we could publish those works on our Orchard website. I'm sure if we asked them for permission, that would be possible. What do you think, Jochem?
I'll check that with my legal department first. So it's not just their permission; it is the university permission as well.
Yeah.
Big question. Who owns the data, right?
Good advert for the university, though. Some partnership. The fact that this is the work that's done. If they I'd love to. Yeah, if we can pursue that, I think that would be an amazing page to have on our website.
Yeah. One thing I'd say is that some of the students did. I mean, it was brilliant. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It tested me as an individual, because I'm not used to jumping on a call with 6 students and having to lecture them about Web3 and Elastos. I'm like, what am I doing? What the hell's going on here? But it was fun, and growing as an individual, but also seeing the students learn and grow themselves, I thought was fantastic. And some of their hand-ins were for Elastos Orchard, so it was about market strategy. There was research conducted within the community on how they view us and where we should place ourselves and our brand as far as how we should be. Then there was the Elastos itself, and how Others perceived Elastos and what they thought about it, the market research there, and the strategy implementation we should take moving forward, which is very much on making it more understandable for the layman, for everyone to read, because I think most people get completely bogged down with just lawyer talk, smart contracts, blockchain, all these buzzwords, which you think, I have no idea what this is. How can we just relay it in a really simple form? And if not, how can we show it in a way which people just can actually use an application and understand it firsthand? To which that's what another student did, which was brilliant, in that she looked at NGOs and she interviewed around 7 NGOs and asked them about their points. She did research which showed that trust is, I mean, pretty steeply declining in NGOs as far as what they do with their money and how it's used. And I'd argue trust as a whole around the world is breaking down. And that's why blockchain has such a great offering, because it's a trust mechanism to bring that back into the system. And again, she's created an application, kind of prototype, not developed, but outlaid what one would look like, how it would be used, and how the NGO can basically benefit from this. And it's brilliant. Every student went in different directions with what they wanted to study, and all of them brought back some really interesting topics and research. So, I mean, bravo and congratulations to all the students who have done. I think it's fantastic.
Brilliant, really, really good. And in fact, we as Orchard have been invited. Well, we volunteered, but we've also been invited now to take part in next year's equivalent. So we've got a meeting in August, 24th of August, I think, just with the university, just to talk about how we're going to engage again. And then we'll get a new set of students in September. And we hope to be even better at looking after them. So this will be the 3rd year, I think, that we've done it. And each year we're improving as well. So that's good. And I think we can see the effects, because their work is certainly, improving. And it's great what they're doing.
It's a great area. I mean, it really is on the forefront of innovation. And actually, to be a student, you're just starting your kind of professional career, and to be learning about blockchain, learning about this whole space, I think is so beneficial. One of the things that I was told, so I have a friend of mine who's a consultant in London, big firm, and he deals with AI and blockchain as part of the department. And he was saying, from the conversations that we've had, the people in his departments don't have a clue really about blockchain to the extent. And one of the biggest benefit, I mean, it's surprising and actually shocking how they don't really understand fully what's going on. I think when you're trapped inside a certain system, it's really hard to see another system and step out of it. In the same way traditional finance would look at Bitcoin and say that's ridiculous, it's the most crazy hedge you could ever do, why would you get involved in that? And yet we would sit on Bitcoin and say it's literally the safest place you could be, right, looking at the system.
The greatest risk is not investing in it.
Yeah, it's so hard to step out of it. But the students, they don't have that. They haven't been absorbed in that world yet. So they have such open minds, and they really are open to learning. And in doing this project, they've actually been allowed to see it from an external perspective and see where we're heading. And I think that's actually such a positive thing. And when it comes to job interviews moving forward, if you can really, distinctly talk about blockchain in a really simplified way, and talk about the effects it can have, I think that's a massive standout quality for anyone to want to employ you. So really, really positive.
Yeah, and I guess lastly, an advert for a couple of them, in that while we in Cordial are going to run strategic issues webinars, we've got a couple of three students who want to work with us, running their own media for audiences much more like them, looking at blockchain and Elastos, smart web, all the things that we're passionate about, but talking about it at a different level, or not a different level. That sounds terrible. I don't mean that. I mean just talking about it in a different language, in a different way, that inspires and is interesting to I guess a younger audience. And one of the things that they could do is probably interview each other about some of this work that they've done as well. So it would be really good for them to go and talk about these things and bring it a bit to life. But I'm really looking forward to that coming out too, because the more we can pass this knowledge to wider audiences, the better for everyone, I think.
Absolutely.
Right, chaps.
Great.
9:30.
Okay, it's lovely to speak with you both. We'll do another one of these next week. We'll get this up on our YouTube channel as soon as we can, and very much here for everybody. So if you want to know anything or want to connect with us, please email us, connect, use Telegram or Twitter, and we look forward to continuing our work over the next week, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know, most importantly, what you'd like to see for our future webinars. Anything you think posted up, and what are you passionate about, and what do you think would be an interesting topic. Otherwise, guys, have a great rest of the week.
Cheers.
See you later, guys. Bye.